Planning and Zoning Commission Board meeting Thursday, February 11th, 2016, 10 a.m., Sanford City Hall, City Commission Room.
Good morning. Today is February 11th, and welcome to the Sanford Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. I'd like to first start with a moment of silent prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nice touch. Did you get that?
Yeah, I like it. Mary, would you take roll, please?
Steve Essler,
Here.
Michael Loader, Jerry Mills,
Here.
Cassandra Bowie, Lindsay Oyewale,
Here.
Eddie Green,
Here.
Joshua Dane, Richard Godfrey. Okay, for the board, Michael Loader was not able to attend due to a work conflict. He had to be out of town today. And then the other three, Cassandra and Joshua, I have not heard from them, nor has staff. And our alternate, Mr. Godfrey, he did resign as of yesterday.
I would look for a motion to discuss the absence, or do we want to wait a little bit just to give them a benefit of a doubt because of traffic and things of that nature?
I would suggest we go through it. We've got a long agenda, and
All right.
I would make a motion to approve the absence of Michael Loader and to not approve the absence of Cassandra and Joshua at this time.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We also need a motion to approve the minutes of the January 7th, 2016 regular meeting.
I move to approve those minutes.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. And a vote in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The next item is a public hearing. A request to approve the preliminary subdivision plan for Silvestri Estates has been received. Eileen, will you be reading this? This matter is a quasi-judicial matter, and as such requires disclosure of all ex parte communications, investigations, site visits, or any expert opinions regarding this matter. I open up to any board members if they had any of these communications.
I have none.
No one has any. Thank you, Eileen.
Okay. As noted, we've received a request to approve the preliminary subdivision plan for Silvestri Estates. The 214.54 acre site.
Eileen, if you can please speak up. Some of the participants in the back row can't hear us, and they're motioning for us to speak up.
Okay. The 214.54 acre site is located on the south side of East Lake Mary Boulevard between two residential planned developments, Magnolia Park and the west to the west and Brisson West to the east. The subject property was originally approved as the Silver Lakes Industrial Park replat in 1993. The property has remained undeveloped. On March 10, 2014, the City Commission adopted Ordinance 4312, changing the future land use for 21.52 acres of the site to general commercial, and the balance of the 193 plus acres to LDR SF, which is low-density residential single-family. The City Commission adopted Ordinance 4313 as well, rezoning the entire 214.54 acres to planned development for a project known as Silvestri Estates, subject to a development order number 14-04. It contained a series of conditions for the development standards. Just as a side note, between the submittal of the preliminary subdivision plan and the recent submittal of the subdivision improvement plan, the applicant has changed the spelling of the name to change the first I to a Y. Just in case you noticed that on your plans, that they were different. Okay. Staff recommends the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the preliminary subdivision plan for Silvestri Estates pursuant to all the standards and conditions as noted on the Silvestri Estates preliminary subdivision plan dated April 29, 2014, and subject to all conditions and requirements of the Silvestri Estates PD Master Plan and the Associated Development Order Number 14-04.
Thank you. Do any of the board members have questions of staff?
Not at this juncture.
No.
Thank you. If there's a representative here in regards to this matter and would like to come forward and state your name and your address and give us a brief overview of your request. Anyone else that would like to come up and speak in favor of this request? Anyone here in regards to opposing the request? That being said, any question? We close the public portion of this hearing, and board, if there's any questions or any discussion.
Okay. I hate to admit this publicly, but I do look at plans a lot during the day in my particular career. And I'm sorry, but I had a very difficult time trying to find Track C. Could you please just tell me where that is? I mean, it was noted in here quite a bit, and I just couldn't find Track C. And I'm sure it's like, the milk in the refrigerator right in front of me, and I can't see it. So.
There's a large set of plans in front of you as well.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure that's going to help that much. Okay. Well, aside from that, it looks like it was all approved, and we have comments about it in the requirements and conditions. The one thing that I did note was on sheet 4, on drawing sheet 4, there were two locations where it appeared that the setback that appeared to be approved in number 2 of the conditions were not consistent. In the upper left-hand corner on sheet 4, it's showing a 75-foot typical lot layout with a 5-foot setback. And I think the 75 is supposed to have a 7.5. Is that correct?
The 75 should have 7.5, yes.
Okay, so that's, then did I read that right? That is incorrect on the drawing? Upper left-hand corner where they show the little lot lines, and they're showing a 5-foot side yard setback and a 75-foot wide lot.
Oh, on the typical lot layout.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and then down in the lower right-hand corner, they're giving themselves much larger setbacks, it appears, than what we had approved previously. They've got side yard setbacks at 10 feet, and they're 5 and 7.5, so that's incorrect too?
Well, I mean, if they want to impose larger setbacks on themselves, I suppose they have the ability to do so, but the PD itself is what establishes those setbacks, so that is what we will apply when reviewing
Okay.
plans.
I just prefer consistency, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really the only comment that I have.
Anyone else? If there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the preliminary subdivision plan for Silvestri Estates and recommend it as recommended by staff.
A second.
We have a motion by Eddie Green, a second by Lindsay. I'll ask for those, any further discussion? I ask those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Our public hearing number 1 is a conditional use request to establish a concrete pumping business with outdoor storage and above-ground fuel tanks at 2620 Iroquois Avenue, and has been received. Is there anyone here on, it's quasi judicial matter, and again, we must disclose any communication, ex parte communications, investigations with any parts of this hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I did not do a specific site visit, but I did drive around the area and to the site yesterday, and that was it.
I have no disclosure.
I also did the same thing. I investigated just by visual. Okay. Staff,
Okay. As noted, conditional use request to establish concrete pumping and outdoor storage at 2620 Iroquois has been received. The property is located between Iroquois Avenue and Mohawk Avenue, currently has a general commercial zoning and a general commercial land use. Pursuant to Schedule B, permitted uses of the land development regulations, a contractor yard is classified as outdoor storage. Non-hazardous outdoor storage, as well as the proposed fuel tank, are only allowed in the GC2 zoning district if approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission as a major conditional use. Solid ground concrete pumping is a contractor yard for concrete pumping trucks. The concrete pumping has established operations on the subject property at 2620 Iroquois Avenue. Pursuant to code enforcement action, the applicant has submitted for the required conditional use request to continue the current operations at this location. The conditional use requested is to allow outdoor storage of trucks and related contractor supplies, as well as establishing a small above-ground fuel tank. The trucks are proposed to be parked in the rear lot, and the property has a 6-foot wood privacy fence to be maintained by solid ground concrete pumping to block the visual effects of the land use. The applicant has noted the proposal to limit the hours of operation to no earlier than 6 a.m. and no later than 6 p.m. for the use in an effort to mitigate any noise that might be created. A concrete pad has been installed for vehicle washing. However, regulations require additional modifications for compliance. Solid ground concrete pumping proposes to add curbs to the concrete pad and add the floor drains required, as well as an oil water separator to trap materials other than water that would drain into the soil or drainage system. In an effort to reduce truck traffic impacts on the surrounding residential roads, the applicant proposes to limit access to the southern driveway on Iroquois so no trucks drive by the residential homes. Staff recommends the Planning and Zoning Commission conduct a public hearing to determine if the conditional use request to establish the concrete pumping business with outdoor storage and an above-ground fuel tank at 2620 Iroquois Avenue meets the standards for consideration, and approve, deny, or approve with conditions based on the findings at the meeting. If after conducting a public hearing, the Planning and Zoning Commission finds the request does meet the standards for consideration, the conditions noted in the staff report before you, as well as any conditions that might address the concerns of the neighbors, should be considered.
thank you. Board have any questions of staff?
Not at this point.
Thank you.
Is there a representative present that would like to come forward? Please state your name and your address.
My name is Vincent Wally. I'm the manager of BRW Holdings at 108 Commerce Street, Suite 200, Lake Mary, 32746.
Thank you. Would you like to describe or speak in favor of?
Yeah, I think Eileen made a mistake. We're going to use the Iroquois access, not the Mohawk access. I think you said that backwards. So we're going to abandon the Mohawk access. The truck drivers also agreed to, their trucks have like a little beeping noise when they back up. Yeah, they're gonna take those off so you don't hear beeping, because that's kind of inconsiderate. So, and they're going to be more, respectful to hours of operation and,
Okay. Staff, board, does anyone have questions for the
You've seen all of the conditions and everything, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Wally? There's only one thing that I'd like to add is at item 12, they're talking about a wood privacy fence being replaced with a vinyl privacy fence. And I presume I have the authority to at least request this, that where the fence is on Mohawk, and the gate is there with the post in front of it, that instead of replacing the whole thing with a vinyl fence and a gate there, that there's no gate there at all, and that would ensure that there would be no access onto, now you have me confused about the location, onto Mohawk.
Actually, I haven't seen the items, the vinyl fencing feature, but we have no problem replacing the fence and taking out that gate on Mohawk, because we're not going to use it, so we have no problem with that whatsoever.
All right, very good. The applicant said that they haven't seen the 12 conditions?
Or maybe I
I'm sorry.
Maybe you saw them and just,
The staff report was forwarded to you,
Okay,
so.
I don't have them with me, so they would have went to the owner. But
okay, but you have no
Want to
problem
have an
with,
opportunity to
Would
review
you like to
them?
look at
yeah,
them?
could I see one? Do we
Is
have
there an
one?
additional copy to make sure that he's apprised of those 12 conditions before we vote on them?
Jim, give him a moment.
One thing as well is the in reference to the fuel tank, the supplier of the fuel tank. I guess there's a conflict on the state standards.
You just lost the quorum. Okay, sir, we'll have to wait till Mr. Green gets back here to, he'll clear his throat, he had a little problem. So if you'll take the time right now to, you can review those conditions.
oh, wait. Just going to get water. Okay, he can hear.
Okay, Mr. Green has returned in, so,
You can keep them.
yeah, be good for your file and your records.
Ask him if he's got any comments about it.
Do you have any comments about what you've just seen, the 12 conditions?
Yeah, there's no issues with that. I've seen the 12 conditions. Now, I was told, and I don't know if this is correct or not, we're trying to research it, that the fuel tank that was, it's under a certain size, and it doesn't need, the supplier told us that due to the size of the tank, it doesn't need to be stored in a dual bladder containment system, like a tank within a tank, due to the size. And I'm collecting that data to be able to provide to you guys. I got some information from the supplier, but he said there's a threshold in which it has to be within the tank within a tank, and it's below that threshold. And I'm getting the specs from the actual manufacturer that provided the tank.
Get that back to the city staff and
Okay.
go from there.
And Mr. Wally, where on the site will that tank be located?
The tank is actually behind the building.
Behind the building, towards the north or towards the south?
Yeah, if you go to an aerial, it's on the back rear corner of the building.
Southwest corner?
That would be as you pull into the driveway off Iroquois. See where the top left corner? Nope. Towards
Back
the
of the
building. Right there. Oh, there, right there.
The other left.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Which gives you the ability to fuel the vehicles as they come in and leave.
Correct.
All right. Anyone else with questions? I do have one myself. Coming from the construction side in my day-to-day activities and doing a lot of concrete work and things, the one question I have, which is one of the conditions that's being agreed to, is the operation hours are limited to no commencing operations no earlier than 6 a.m. and continuing operations until no time later than 6 p.m. That really brought up a flag for myself because in Central Florida, not this time of year, well, this time of year is probably the opposite, but when we start getting into our regular spring, summer, and fall, the temperatures are so high, most concrete companies want to start their concrete pours 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning so they can get the concrete set before the heat sets in, which gives them more time to work the concrete. With the size pumps you have, those aren't for pumping block walls. You're pumping some good-sized slabs there, and I just don't understand how 6 o'clock is going to be the first truck moving out of there, which means if whoever you're servicing wouldn't be able to pour concrete to at least 7:30 to get there, set it up, and prime it and everything else. And I just wanted to bring that up because, again, noise is a big concern of the citizens, and with the industry I'm in, knowing how things operate, I just need a good explanation of how 6 o'clock works for your business and that type of machine.
Well, I'm not the tenant. I'm just the property manager. I was given those hours by a representative of them, but I mean, I could circle back with them and see if those hours need to be amended. I'm not familiar in the construction field,
Okay,
so.
that's just something that came up that I wanted to bring out because,
Sure
again,
wouldn't want it to be any earlier, and sure wouldn't want it to be,
Much later.
at midnight or 1 or 2.
Exactly.
They did say that, I guess, some of the property owners were complaining about the beeping of the trucks because they have the little beep, beep, beep,
Right, the
things when
backups.
the reverse lights kick in. So they said they had no problem removing those to try to help with the sound,
the other
We just
issue,
want to be clear that
Yeah.
these are conditions.
That's being
And so
agreed
those
to.
conditions are not going to,
They're not
you can't
wavering.
change them. If you decide later on that you do need to start moving out trucks at 2 a.m., you are limited to
They are,
the
their
times,
property.
they are limited to the times set forth in the recommendations or conditions, which is 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And so I'm assuming you've had the conditions previously, and I'm assuming you've reviewed them now. I just want to make clear.
Well, I wasn't made aware of, 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning access, and
well,
that was just.
that's, again, they may do a different type of business than what I'm accustomed to, but I felt it was a valid question. And the other thing is with the beeps, that's a nice gesture in the startup. However, let's say right now, with the climate like it is, 35, 40 degrees in the morning, we all know that when you start that truck up, it's going to sit 10 or 15 minutes idling because it's a diesel and you got to get the air brakes up and everything else. So, again, that time of 6 a.m. is a critical part of any decisions that are being made, and it could really alter your tenant or the people that occupying the building's ability to do their work in a good manner.
I mean, I was given this information by someone, not the owner, but, a representative of the company. So if that needed to be amended, would we have to go through a whole new hearing for that to be amended?
Yes.
Yeah, because if this gets approved today, it goes in, and City Commission approves, then it's in effect, and if somebody says there's a truck starting at 4:30, code enforcement's going to be out there on your door knocking, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden fines are going to start growing.
Could we, just to be on the safe side, then maybe call it 4? I mean, before we had Pet Rescue by Judy, she'd had 1 million dogs out there barking. It couldn't be any louder than the trucks, I would assume.
Well, that's not the
but I'm
issue
not
we're
there,
discussing today.
Yeah.
Today we're discussing concrete trucks and
Yeah.
parking and things like that. Any other questions or any
If
discussable
they
matters?
want to consider changing the time, I would suggest that maybe we move to table it and let them come back again. I hate putting things off, but I have a feeling that with some people in the audience here, if they change that from 6 to 4 in the morning, that the audience is going to double or triple next time.
Well, I mean, they told me 6, so I'd rather just leave it at 6. And if we have to go through a whole new conditional use hearing again to change the hours at a later date, then that's what we'll have to do.
That's your right to do.
That's-
I just want to make sure that
we
you're clear.
appreciate your opinion.
I know that this property's been there and been approved for the use that it's got right now. When I first saw the submittal request, I thought concrete pumping, but the reality is they're not doing any pumping on site. The only thing on site is cranking those suckers up at 6 o'clock in the morning and moving them out to go get the concrete, right?
Correct.
And I was even more amazed when I drove by the site and saw that not only are you adjacent to residential, even though it's duplex on one side and I don't know what that is on the other side, but it also on the south side of where your wall goes out to Mohawk, that there's also a residence as well. So you got in under the wire. So it is what it is. At some point in time, one zoning has to change and another one to start, and you are right at that edge. It just seems like that whole area should be more single-family residential, but again, that's not what we're approving or disapproving.
I mean, when they leased the property from me, they told me they were a construction office.
Yeah.
So we leased it as a construction office.
Pretty broad
I mean, we didn't really, get very specific until code enforcement because,
All right. Any other questions of the board?
No.
All right. Thank you. We may call you back up. Is there anyone else at this public hearing that would like to speak in favor? I have a speaker request form here that shows the support of the action from Thomas Burr. Mr. Burr, if you'd come forward, state your name and your address, please.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this. Thank you very much. My name is Thomas Shepard Burr. My residence is 2030 Palm Way in Sanford, unincorporated Seminole. I'm here because I own the vacant lot immediately north adjacent to this property. And if you could put that up, I'd appreciate it. I also own the property north of the vacant lot, which is 2614 Iroquois Avenue, the duplex. So that's the reason I'm here today. I don't see that zoning can prohibit the use as they're applying for. My comments have to do with the conditions and perhaps a little improvement that might improve not only my property but other residents' concerns. First comment I had, in the application and the conditions, it talks about the trucks entering on the south side of the building, and I don't see a driveway there. The only driveway is on the north side, next to my vacant lot.
That's correct.
We're working
If you
on
could
that.
put the,
She's working on it, right? I'm sorry. Jordan's working on it at the present.
that's not it. The north side of the property is my lot. That's the south side, and I don't see a drive entering through that. The only drive is on the north side.
Correct.
That's a mistake.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
So therefore, that puts the drive right next to my lot, as opposed to on the south side. I would much prefer the south side, obviously,
Is-
but I don't know if that's physically possible.
Mr. Burr, is the two-story building facing out onto Iroquois that's set way back, is that on your property too?
2614 Iroquois is a duplex, two-story duplex that's set quite a ways back from the street, probably 100 feet back.
Okay, and then you said you also...
And also in the vacant lot, which is immediately adjacent to the subject site,
To the west.
to the north of the subject site.
Oh, I thought you said you owned it on Mohawk too.
Okay. No, I don't have property on Mohawk.
Okay, all right. I
So
gotcha.
while I'm not directly concerned with that, I appreciate other residents may have some concerns on that. So the first comment had to do with where is the driveway, south and north side. And secondly, the conditions call for the 6-foot vinyl fence. If you look from my property toward the site, these trucks are large. They're very tall. They're 2 stories tall, perhaps. I would prefer a higher fence and maybe a more solid material, such as concrete block or preformed concrete, which would give more of a sound barrier as well as a visibility barrier. Those are my concerns.
I'm sorry, what was that last thing about the fence?
I would prefer a more solid and higher fence that would prevent sound and prevent visibility of the
Okay,
big trucks. Because it does butt up against residential area. Now, that vacant lot that I own is zone GC1. I had originally planned a duplex there, but I can't afford to build it right now. So, I hope you understand my comments, and that's what I had to say.
Thank you. We appreciate it. I also have a couple of more requests to speak. I have one from Derek Robertson. I'm not sure if it's for or against.
I'm kind of opposed to it because I own a single-family home on Mohawk Avenue. I'm on 2608.
Could you please state your name and address, please?
My name is Derek Robertson, and I live at 2608 Mohawk Avenue. And I'm catty corner to the property, a stone's throw away from it. And as the guy said, Pets by Judy was there before. The property's always kind of been an eyesore and source of contention. You know, with Pets by Judy, we had the pit bulls running loose, and now we got the concrete trucks running loose. And you know, I have some concerns beyond what's already been mentioned. For one thing, they're always burning trash over there. They burn something. I don't know what, but I assume it's not leaves or whatever because they're a concrete pumping company, so they're burning packaging or something like that. If they're going to take the beepers off the trucks, that's all fine, but then what happens if they actually need those beepers, if they're backing out and there's a child behind them or something like that? There's 30 kids within that 2-block area of Iroquois and Mohawk. You know, there's a lot of children that live on those 2 blocks. You know, I myself have my son with me here. I have another one. There's 10 school buses that go through there every day. I just don't think it's appropriate to have in a neighborhood. You know, yeah, we are right next to Popeyes and right next to the main road and all that, but I think the whole point of stuff like this is to improve the town, not drag it further down into, you know, dregs. So hopefully you guys deny this request and get them out of there and get something better in there. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. Our next request to speak is from Bruce Aycock. Again, please state your name and your address, sir.
Bruce Aycock, 2614 Mohawk Avenue.
Yes, sir.
And my question was the fuel tank. I assume it's going to be diesel fuel, or is it going to be gasoline, or what is it? It wasn't stated.
It's diesel.
Okay, it is diesel. Okay, and who's it going to be maintained by? I mean, is it somebody going to check to see if it meets all the code and everything, or is it up to the property owner, or is it the state or county going to be involved?
I would surmise that when the tank is installed, it will have to have a permit for the tank, which also gets a state permit because they're pumping over-road
Okay.
fuel. It usually requires explosion-proof connections and all the electrical. So if the tank is installed through a permit application, it will be inspected by City of Sanford inspectors, usually the city fire marshal or one of his people, to determine that it is operating safe and sound.
As the previous speaker noted, Derek said that about burning the trash. That's trash burning in a fuel tank. It's not a good idea. I mean, I've seen them burning trash. I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of black smoke. When they first came there, they were burning all the building stuff there, and the fire department come there and shut them down when, before it actually opened. But so I don't know what they're burning there, but you can smell it burning sometimes, and I don't know if they have a burn permit, if that's required or what, but burning right in the backyard in a fuel tank, that doesn't mix to me.
I would hope that they had used a lot of that land to get a distance between the two. But, Mr. Wall, do you have any idea of what's being burned?
I didn't even know they were burning, but
Okay.
I'll leave that'll stop immediately.
That's about the best we can do at the time.
Okay, and the fence there, it's not really a retainer fence, it's the woods, like you said, they're going to replace with vinyl, and eliminate the gate in the back, because that's where I live, right almost in back of it, in one house over. So I see it all the time, and they're starting the trucks. They're there before 6 o'clock running, just to let you know that. I'm out with my dog a little after 6, and they're already gone. The trucks are gone. So the 6 a.m. is not 100%. I mean, I didn't document it what time, but it's before 6 a lot of mornings. And actually, taking the beepers off, isn't that illegal? And don't they require a backup alarm on a truck that size? I thought that was a state requirement.
I can't answer that question,
Okay.
but I know in the construction industry I'm in, any large truck usually has them for safety, which would,
Be required on the construction site.
on construction site, they're required, I mean, so.
This place looks like it belongs in an industrial park, and there's all houses and kids around there, and it doesn't really look like it belongs there. It's like an eyesore. I mean, it's not, there's houses all around it. Right across the street from is the veterinarian, then next to it, there's a little auto electrical place. But I've been there 39 years, and so I know about what's going on around there. But anyways, I just wanted to voice my opinion and let you know a couple things that was said about the 6 a.m. thing and the burning trash and the fuel tank.
Thank you, Mr. Aycock.
Thank you.
Our last request to speak is from Diane Magner.
I didn't want to speak, I just wanted it read into the record.
Okay. Ms. Magner has put in a written comment, basically, fuel tank, safety concerns, excessive noise, all hours of day and night. Thank you for your contribution. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor or in opposition of this matter? Mr. Wall, is there anything you'd like to add as we move forward?
The tank issue with the fuel, I mean, all that will be permitted. We had to get all the documents. They're brand new tanks, so they're brand new fuel tanks, and they're pulling a permit for those. They needed to get all the spec sheets of all the details because the tank was just fabricated. There's diesel fuel in them, yeah. They didn't know they needed a permit to be. Well, I'm just, I'm not the user. So I advised them of that. They had to get some supportive information from the manufacturer. They gave us the information. They gave us like a book this thick, and I said, you need to weed through the book until it's exactly what the specs are. And then they were saying that due to the size of the tank, certain tanks don't require some of the guidelines that they're.
That's a lot of hearsay.
Yeah. And there's also a tank for Expert Car Care and the mechanic shop, and they have tanks they use waste oil, and they have tanks. So it's not like an uncommon thing for someone to have a tank, but you're absolutely right. First of all, there should be no burning whatsoever. That's unacceptable. That's completely unacceptable. I wasn't aware of that, and they can't do that.
But excuse me for 1 second. Mr.
All comments should be directed to the
Okay.
chair.
Yes, to the board. Yeah. Mr. Aycock, any comments? Please come to us too, please.
For minutes to be kept when that type of litany occurs.
Thank you.
But yeah, well, the tanks will be regulated. They will submit all documentation. They're brand new tanks. We'll do whatever we need to do to make sure the tanks are safe, and there will be no burning of anything on that property.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Any questions from?
Yeah. Is there any objection to increasing the height of the gate? I know that one of the speakers, or at least two, addressed the issue with the height, that 6 feet may be insufficient to cover visibility of the trucks, and also would there be any objection to changing the material of the fence, possibly not the vinyl, but something more durable so that sound is less of an issue for the surrounding residents?
I don't have a problem with like an 8.
Excuse me a second, Mr. Wally. Commissioner Oyewale, I was going to suggest that the north wall be 8 feet high and be masonry construction, and the tree that is acting as part of the fence now be completely removed so that they can put the wall in.
No problem with removing the tree, no problem making it an 8-foot fence. It really comes down to economics. They're not paying a lot of rent, and for us to put a $30,000 fence up, block wall fence to block sound when a tenant's barely paying that in rent, I don't know if that economically makes sense. But we have no problem increasing the height of the fence and the material of the fence, but in reference to and taking out the tree and doing it the proper way in one continuous fence line, that's not a problem. But in reference to putting in footers and building a 8-foot block fence, I don't know if that'd be something we'd have to circle back with because of the pure cost.
That's going to be part of it.
Excuse me. Well, sir, you'd have to step up to the podium. Let me ask if Mr. Wall has anything else to share. Sir, let Mr. Wall, if he has anything else to share.
That's it. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Again, state your name and address.
Thomas Burr again. Regarding his comment about the economics, I'm also a property manager. In a situation like this where you've got an owner with a tenant in there that has a unapproved use, something has to be done. Well, if one of the conditions is a wall, perhaps the owner could require the tenant to build the wall. So that has nothing to do with the amount of rent being paid.
Thank you for your comment. Mr. Wall, the podium's yours if you'd like.
I have no problem putting that expense on the tenant if need be, but I would love to do that.
Right.
We're kind of taking responsibility because they're, a green company and they don't have the financial wherewithal to, maybe address some of these items. So we're going to step involved and clean up the landscaping, replace the fence, whatever we have to do. And if it comes down to passing some of those expenses off to the tenant, we would love to do that. So.
Your commitment's appreciated.
Thank you.
Any more questions from At this time, the public participation portion of this hearing is closed. Commission will discuss.
Real quickly, I hate to interrupt, but you need to address one matter before you start, and this is a quasi-judicial
Didn't we?
proceeding, and Ms. Buey wasn't here.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you.
I don't know if he feels comfortable with voting or not. I mean, if you don't vote, you have to follow memorandum of voting conflict and just describe the situation, which I'll help you with. But if you've read the materials and from what you've heard, you feel comfortable, you can participate.
I just got it.
Otherwise,
I think I feel comfortable participating.
Okay, as I read prior to you getting here, it's a quasi-judicial matter. Such requires disclosure of all ex parte communications, investigation, site visit, and expert opinion regarding this matter. Have you had any?
No.
Thank you, Lonnie. We'll have discussion.
Okay. Whoever it was that mentioned that it was an entry and access at the northern side of Iroquois is absolutely correct. So I'd like for that to be corrected in the background. And I'm prepared to make a motion whenever we're ready to do so.
Any other discussion?
No, I have no further discussion. My questions have been answered.
In that case, we'll entertain a motion.
Okay, then I move to approve with conditions. And Mr. Wally, please know that I have a great deal of difficulty doing this, and it's not your fault. It just happens to be the juxtaposition of the property. But I will move to approve with conditions a conditional use to establish the concrete pumping business with outdoor storage and above-ground fuel tank at 2620 Iroquois Avenue, subject to a development order that includes the conditions as recommended by staff and the following conditions. Number one, that the north wall be replaced instead of with vinyl at 6 feet, that it be 8 feet, and it be an 8-inch solid masonry wall, and that the tree be removed in order to facilitate the proper construction of that wall from east end of property to west end of property. That number two, that if there is a way to do so, and I'm probably opening the door to problems on this, but if there is a way to do so, that the beepers be off on site within the fence only.
can I interrupt you? I was going to ask y'all to make a determination that you had nothing to do with how the beepers operated, because I don't think that's appropriate.
Okay, then item two is that we have nothing to do with the beepers. Okay?
It's their obligation one way or the other.
Yeah, okay. Item number three is that there be no trash burning on the site. And that item number four, the 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Includes the startup of the vehicles are not allowed before 6 a.m. And that for the neighborhood, this appears to be an extremely important issue. So that's my motion.
I second.
We have a motion by Mr. Mills, a second by Mrs.
Lindsay's good.
Lindsay. Any comments, any more further discussion?
Well, actually, I do have one. The driveway on the north side, did you mention that?
Yes, I did.
And so that's going to be moved to the south
No,
side?
it can't be moved. The building
So-
is, it's there. It just needs to be corrected in the record that it's the north
Okay.
side and not the south side.
Not the south side, but there's no way to move.
Right.
Okay.
Any other comments? We have a motion and a second. We'll vote.
Aye.
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 All those opposed?
All those opposed? You helping me. Motion is passed unanimously.
Mr. Chair, one other thing, sorry to interrupt you. Since this is a conditional use approval, it requires a development order, as you know. But that development order also has to be executed by the property owner. And Mr. Gibson and I have faced situations in past times where there's an approval, but the development order isn't executed for sometimes a long period of time. What we would recommend is that you add a condition now by separate motion that the development order must be executed within 30 days of the date of today's hearing. Otherwise, it just sort of could potentially hang out.
So at this point, we would,
Okay, I would be willing to so move that the development order be executed within, is 30 days really reasonable?
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's best to get attention to these matters in due order, but if, and I apologize, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, I was late this morning, but I don't know if the agent or representative is here and perhaps comment whether that's a reasonable timeline or needs more time.
Mr. Wally, who is with BTW Holdings, is here, and it's the only representative.
So the question is, we can get the work done in 30 days?
No, sir.
Or just signing off on the
Signing off
agreement?
on the development.
I don't have a problem with getting that signed within 30
Then
days.
my
That's not a
motion
problem.
stands as 30 days.
That's reasonable.
We have an addition.
Second.
I'm sorry, ma'am, the public hearing is closed. Unfortunately, the public hearing has already been closed in this matter. We have a second motion on this item. Do we have a second?
I second the,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Cassandra.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Mills, a second by Cassandra. Vote.
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We now move on to public hearing number 2. It's a conditional use request for the alteration and continuation of an existing non-conforming use mobile home community in an SR1 single-family residential zoning, and it has been received. For the board, this is a quasi-judicial matter, and as such requires disclosure of all ex parte communications, investigations, site visits, and expert opinions regarding this matter. Does anyone have anything?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I not only drove around the site, I drove onto the site, but I had no communication with anyone.
Anyone else?
I have no disclosures.
I actually did the same. I visited the site, drove on it, and just did some investigating. With that being said, if staff will lead us on.
All right. As noted, a conditional use request has been submitted to continue the existing non-conforming mobile home park in the SR1 zoning that it's located. The property is located on the north side of Santa Barbara Drive and east of Mohawk Avenue, west of Iroquois. The site is currently zoned SR1, single-family residential with the corresponding low-density residential single-family land use. City records indicate that the property has been a mobile home park since at least 1974. A variance was granted at the October 13, 1980 City Commission meeting to permit trailers and attached structures in existing trailer park to be within 25 feet of the property lines as long as the trailers and or structures are not located on public right-of-way nor create a traffic hazard. The owner is requesting to allow the continuation of the existing structures, many of which are currently encroaching into the right-of-way, to remain, as well as the replacement of a mobile home on Lot 4 that was recently removed. Currently, there are 22 mobile home units on 8 lots platted for 8 single-family residential homes. If permitted to replace structures as they are removed, the nonconforming use will continue in perpetuity. Pursuant to Schedule L, nonconforming land use provisions of the city's land development regulations, a use which is lawfully existed on the effective date of said regulations but is no longer conforming may be reestablished subject to the approval of a conditional use. The applicant has submitted a request for the alteration and continuation of the existing nonconforming use. In considering an application for a conditional use to reestablish the existing nonconforming structure in our use, all appropriate safeguards and conditions shall be placed on the project to ensure that it will not be contrary to the public interest, the intent of the nonconforming land use schedule, or injurious to the specific area in which it is located. The development review team has reviewed the request and finds that part of the request may not meet the required standards for consideration, specifically the 3 standards noted within your staff report. In addition, the variance granted October 13, 1980 to permit trailers and attached structures in the existing trailer park to be within the 25-foot setback line, but restricted the trailers and or structures from being located on the public right-of-way. Staff recommends the Planning and Zoning Commission conduct a public hearing to determine if the conditional use request for the alteration and continuation of the existing nonconforming use of the mobile home community in the SR1 single-family residential zoning at 800 Santa Barbara Drive meet the standards for consideration, and approve, deny, or approve with conditions based on the findings at that meeting. Several possible conditions have been noted before you for consideration, if approved, as well as any that may be presented by those present at the hearing today.
Thank you. Is there a representative here that's going to speak in behalf of this request? Please step to the podium, state your name and your address.
Good morning, Steve Coover, 230 North Park Avenue, Sanford, Florida. I'm here on behalf of the owner, David Abrams.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Before we get started.
Yes, sir.
Receive staff reports and questions or concur?
We agree with the staff's findings in their report, specifically. We agree with the recommended conditions that they've asked for. I think one of the threshold matters is to understand the subject matter that we're dealing with, the nonconforming use. The comp plan of the City of Sanford at policy 1-1.1.15 addresses existing non-complying structures and non-conforming uses. So what I'd like to try and focus on first is what kind of an animal we're dealing with, and then how does your comp plan ask you to deal with it. I want to read a portion of it into the record because I think it's important to establish what the rules are. Lawful existing land uses which do not comply with the future land use map and or other provisions of the comprehensive plan may continue as lawful non-conforming uses. However, such uses shall not be expanded. Minor alterations to such lawful non-conforming uses for purposes of maintaining public safety and structural integrity shall be permitted so long as the square footage and intensity of uses not be extended. So what we have here is staff telling you that their findings are that in 1980 the City Commission or the city, I think it was the city commission, but the city approved a variance subsequent to the property being annexed into the city, which allowed the mobile homes, which the staff has found are substantially in the same location, the same mobile homes, essentially, as were approved. Now, some of those mobile homes, as staff has found, encroach slightly into the right-of-way. And what I'm unable to reconcile is that back in 1980, the city, knowing that most of these mobile homes encroached slightly into the right-of-way, did not really address that subject. And that is reflected in the staff's finding on page 2 of 3 that says, in addition, the variance granted October 13, 1980 to permit trailers and attached structures in the existing trailer park to be within the 25-foot setback line, but restricted the trailers and or structures from being located on public right-of-way. So the staff is telling us that they've found that at the time there were encroachments when the variance was granted, and that relocating those mobile homes back in 1980 would have caused the loss of 80% of the units. So pretty much would have decimated everything. Okay? The city chose not to decimate the owner back then due to this issue. So now we're rolling forward 36 years. My client obviously was not here then. He bought the property in 2006. He did his due diligence. He went to the city. He talked to them and was told there isn't any problems because of the variance. So here we are today. One of the reasons we're here today is because on Lot 4, a mobile home was removed. And in order for...
Sorry,
yes,
Mr.
sir.
Coover, can you point out Lot 4 to us there? Gosh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
So, in order to replace Lot 4 under the city's rules and regulations, we have to obtain a conditional use from this board, which is essentially one of the reasons we're here today. Because we can't expand the use, we can't enlarge the use, and to replace that mobile home on Lot 4, we have to get your permission to do that. So that's one of the points that I want to make. That's the only way I know how to deal with the city in 1980. At that time, I think Lee Moore was the mayor, and I don't know who the rest of the commissioners were, but it seemed like they made a conscious decision back then not to basically blow up this park. And so part of my argument today is basic fairness. This park has been there for 36 years. There's nothing in the staff's report that would indicate that there have been any citations whatsoever as to the health, safety, and welfare of that community that the city needed to address. And also in your comp plan, in the same policy that I referred to before, it says any such unlawful nonconforming uses which are a hazard to public health, safety, and welfare may be issued a city citation ordering a cease to unlawful activities and requiring abandonment of such facilities if the operators fail to comply with city orders to cease operations judged to be a hazard to public health, safety, or welfare. So we have no evidence of that, which I think is very important for the record for you to make this decision. I would argue that based upon that, that there's a certain compatibility aspect that can be found. If this was a problem, this staff would know about it and would have alerted you to it. So while we have to recognize that back in 1980, this use in this location was more intense than the surrounding residential area because of the density, the fact is it did exist before the city passed its current laws. And so that's why your comp plan addresses non-conforming uses, because my client and his predecessors have certain property rights. And that's one of the issues that we're dealing with here today. I want to go to the standards for review, which is Article 3, Section 3.5. And I might just put it up on the board so you can see it. I imagine that you've read it, but I tried to address each standard, and I think the main point is that these standards are talking about impacts based upon future or expansion of the use. And our point is, with the exception of asking for permission to replace the unit on Lot 4, we're not expanding anything. So we believe that there are not going to be any additional impacts to the city as far as water, sewer, archaeological, and I'll go ahead and ask this to be put up just so you can look at it.
What is going to be presented on the overhead, you each have a copy in your
packet.
Written explanation, 800 Santa Barbara Drive.
I'm going to try and keep this short.
Please.
I will. I received a letter that Russ forwarded to me, which I saw when I woke up this morning, a rather lengthy letter, which covers a lot of ground.
Mr. Crew, before you go further.
Yes, sir.
I know that the commissioners were provided the letter
Yes.
at the start of the meeting. I don't know if everyone has had a chance to read it.
I haven't.
And the other question is that the letter has been requested to be read into the meeting here, and wondering if it's more appropriate to have the letter read first before you speak. I need some direction.
That's a request to read it into the record. That's not typical. The letter can be submitted into evidence, but it need not be read.
Okay.
You have no obligation to read it. If the person wants to make a presentation, this is a public hearing for them to make a presentation, they can refer to the letter, but it's submitted, but there's no obligation to read it.
All right, then I
Read it out loud at the meeting.
understand. With that being said, Mr. Coover, if you continue.
Okay. I don't want to address every point in the letter. I don't think that that's appropriate. What I would say is my takeaway from that letter is that this lady, whose property is adjacent on Iroquois, in her view, there is a traffic problem. I know Mr. Mills said he went out there, and I don't know if anybody else did. I've been out there several times myself since I was retained, just kind of drive around, walk through, trying to get a feel for what is there. We obviously have no control over the streets, and if this board were to find that there's a problem with traffic there, being able to get through, we would have no concerns with this board finding that there should be some parking restrictions. But we don't control the outside perimeter. That's the city's purview. So I'm not going to get into the issues that are alleged with regard to the occupants of the park or things like that. But what I glean from this is, one, possible traffic issues, which I think is the city's area to deal with if they feel there are issues. I didn't notice any of the times that I went there because there's very little traffic. But the other thing is, which is very typical, there's a belief that there's been a loss of property value to the adjacent owner. That's an opinion. I don't feel like anything needs to be said other than that's an opinion. There's a lot of residences in the area, and it seems to me that this park has been a compatible part of the community. Otherwise, I think we would have known about it before now. I'm happy to answer questions, but that's all I'm going to say at this point. I would like to retain a little time to comment if there are any objections subsequently.
I think we can accommodate that. Any questions of the speaker?
I have a question of staff based on something the speaker said. The speaker said there haven't been any problems there at all. Do we, has staff checked to see if there have been any police reports at all?
Not specifically with regards to police reports, but we did look into the city records relative to code enforcement actions and the history in that respect. Can you?
People in the back can't hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'll just speak closer. As I indicated, staff did not research law enforcement records or history associated with the subject property or any properties in that immediate area. We did look at computer records relative to code enforcement actions, and I don't have that report with me today, but there was just very little history of code enforcement. I think it had to do with matters associated with maintaining the condition of the premises, but over I think there were less than a handful of those on record, and they were all cases were closed, meaning that they were resolved to the city's satisfaction at that time.
All right.
Any
I
other
just want to
questions?
clarify, Mr. Cooper, can I ask you a question? I just want to clarify what the request is on behalf of your client. So if I understand your request, your client is seeking to simply continue on in the non-conforming use as it has been approved since 1980. Your client is seeking the ability to replace lot number 4 with a mobile home which was once removed, but also seeking the ability to replace other structures in perpetuity as it becomes needed. Is that correct?
Yes, based upon staff's recommended condition that they comply with every requirement of the city with the exception of the setback requirement.
Okay, which was not resolved pursuant as part of the 1980 matter.
What happened?
Understood that was an issue and not addressed, my understanding is.
The city approved the setback being released from 25 feet because 80% of the mobile homes were going to be a problem.
Right.
What they didn't address was the fact that they knew that several of the mobile homes had a corner or something encroaching actually off the property into the right-of-way.
Okay.
And that is the part that they said, okay. You know, when you grant a variance like that and you don't address the issue of the encroachment, to me, that's tacitly saying we're okay with this, because that's the point where it should have been addressed if it was going to be addressed at all, I feel. Right now, to address that problem 36 years and several owners later, creates a real hardship for my client because of a slight encroachment.
Understood. I just wanted to make sure I understood
Yes, ma'am.
your request. Thank you.
And
Mr.
I hope
Cooper,
I clarified that.
It appears that not only is the encroachment in the right-of-way, but it appears that one of the mobile homes is actually encroaching to what is known as Lot 30 to the north, and the fence that's there separating those two properties must be at least 5 to 10 feet inside that property owner's lot. Because when you drive by, you notice that mobile home at the east side of the very north tip, it looks like it's encroaching on the adjacent property, and then the fence is still 5 or 10 feet out. So it looks like these folks are actually taking 7 or 8 feet of the adjacent property owner's property.
I can't disagree with that. And
Okay. I
the
just
owner-
want to make sure that I did see what I saw. The other thing, Mr. Coover,
Yes.
is and I'm going to correct everybody here and give away my age a little bit. It's not been since the 70s. It's been since the 60s. I had occasion to go there to visit a friend on a number of occasions in the mid-60s, and I can tell you that this place wasn't anywhere near half the amount of mobile homes on it then, but I have no proof of anything from that day forward. I have a real hard time with how packed this is right now, and we're wanting to allow something that happened in 1980 to be okay, and we're going to potentially allow building permits for renovation, remodeling, and all of that, new roofs or structural work or whatever, to allow something that shouldn't be there when basically none of our landscape or site requirements are being adhered to or being updated. So they're wanting to have the capability to do this on one hand and totally ignore everything else that it seems like the city is trying to do to potentially upgrade the quality of the city. This neighborhood was a beautiful Mediterranean revival neighborhood at one time, but unfortunately it didn't get built out. And this is a tough one for me. And since I've got the floor, I'll go on. I do think that there is a problem on Santa Barbara, because I observed 3 vehicles parked on the street that I'm only assuming, and I may be wrong, that I'm only assuming were associated with the mobile homes that are facing that street, because there's only one driveway for all of the mobile homes that face there, and then the only way they can access their home is to go up to the parking lot that's way on the north side, walk by other folks' homes to get to theirs. And in addition to that, when I was heading southwest, kind of with the sun in my eyes, with the 3 vehicles that were parked on the other side of the street, 2 vehicles can't drive by and pass, stop and wait for a vehicle to get by before I could. And then lastly, when I was on Mohawk and I came up to the stop sign so that I could turn left, I basically had to creep most of the way out in the street to see beyond the mobile homes that are out in the right-of-way. So in no way, shape, or form would I ever suggest that the folks that are in there, and there's a sign that says 55 and up, and I'm way up beyond that, that I would suggest that they have to move and we have to clear it all out. So I'm very much in favor of leaving it there, but I'm not in favor of adding something back that was gone quite a while ago, nor am I in favor of replacing any of the ones that are there. When their useful life is up, it seems to me that they should go and eventually get back to not 22, but 8 lots, residential lots, as to what it was. But you're the attorney, I'm not. So I don't know how to go about doing that, but I just would like to see that happen 10, 15, 20 years from now, because a lot of those homes are over 40 years old. That's my spiel.
I have a question.
Cassandra.
She has a comment. My question is, when it was originally approved in 1980, do you know how many, was there a certain number of lots that it was approved for, or mobile homes that it was approved for?
I believe it was approved for the 22 that were there at that time.
And how
Is that
many are there
correct?
currently? Oh.
21, I guess.
The minutes in Laserfish are limited, so what's before you is what was able to be retrieved from those records. I don't know how many lots, and, I don't know, between 1980 and now, if and what permits were issued regarding, expansions or carports or anything like that, but what's before you is the information that we have at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any comments, Mr. Coover?
Well, just a couple. First of all, Mr. Mills stated his feelings, and I'm not going to quibble with his feelings. He makes a good point. There is an issue, though, under your comp plan that addresses, the issue of making sure that people are safe. So part of the reasoning behind us requesting replacement and repair, and part of the staff's recommendation in requiring us to meet your standards going forward, is to make sure that these places are safe to live in. Again, I certainly understand your position that one feeling might be, how are we going to ever get this property into compliance if we allow replacement? That's certainly a valid point that I cannot argue with. That is a position that has merit for discussion, but it would be up to the board to make that decision. Certainly my client would be saying, before I bought, I came to the city and I talked to them about this, and they said there was no problem. So if there's no problem, then hopefully I can continue to operate this in the manner in which it has been operated. And that's an issue. I do understand that before the state required comp plans and more definitive statements by the municipalities and counties about how they wanted their land to be developed, that certain things occurred, which that's why we're here today. We have a non-conforming situation we have to deal with. And I think I've spoken to what my client would like to see, and I think staff has made some very valid recommendations for conditions for this board to ask us to comply with, and we're willing to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Coover.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I have one more question.
Okay.
So the only trailer that will fit on that lot is one that would encroach the right-of-way?
No, we're not asking, nor is staff recommending, that we be able to replace the unit on Lot 4 in a manner in which it encroaches. It's going to have to be on the property.
Okay.
Okay? By size or whatever requirement. They are not asking you to allow us to relocate a mobile home that encroaches off-site. And we're not asking for that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I do. Mr. Coover, it appears that where that Lot 4 is, then, that there is possibly a screened enclosure already there that's still there, because all of the others appear to be attached to the mobile homes, but I didn't visualize that when I was over there. But according to the survey, it looks like there's a structure about 4 or 5 feet of, southwest of the existing X'd out rectangle that I was assuming are screened enclosures.
It's just a pad.
It's a parking pad.
Only a pad? Thank you. Okay. It's just a pad. Okay. That's all I was architectural.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's anyone else who is in favor of this, if they would like to come forward? Yes, sir. Please step forward, state your name and your address.
Ron Dickler, 800 Santa Barbara Drive, Unit 3. We're all elderly, and if you take these mobile homes away, 55 old people are not going to be able to find places that easy and accessible. On that map, you showed at least, I seen 3 or 4 that are definitely on the right-of-way, which have been there, as they said. To move these people out, number, I think it's 26, 20, 21, will definitely hurt the 55 and older people. That's been their home for years. We can't afford to move. Thank you for your time.
I'm sorry. Tell me your name again, please.
Ronald Dickler.
Mr. Dickler.
Yes, sir.
I want to make it perfectly clear, and I'll say it again. I have no intention of
Okay, sir.
requesting or
I just
asking
wanted to make
for
perfectly
anybody
clear.
that's there to have to move.
I
would never
just
do
want to
that.
make it perfectly clear to you that we are old and we cannot
You're probably
afford.
no older than me, so.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you for your time.
Anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone in opposition that would like to come forward and speak?
I'm assuming it's good afternoon now.
It's
Or
not yet,
still
but
morning.
close.
My name is Joyce Page. I reside at 800 Santa Barbara Drive, Lot 21. In retrospect, I do understand the meeting here before me today on the encroachments and everything. My concern is the same as, is it Jerry Mills' concern about the traffic and the parking on Santa Barbara and the other one street. You obviously seen difficulty in. Some of us was promised parking areas inside of the park by the current park manager, and then for just right off the sleeve were taken away, and we were told we had parked back on the street again. We are elderly people, we are disabled people, and there is walking issues sometimes. In my case, it's scary to cross. Mine's 21. I have a white Dodge Dakota. Mr. Mills, if you drove by and you seen the quad cab right there in front of my trailer across the street, you would seen that where the school bus comes 5 times a day to pick up and drop off. It leaves us very little room. I want my parking spot back, and there's enough room in that park for that. And this moving around parking spots by the current management of this park is unnecessary and uncalled for. And that's the only thing really I have to say. The improvement on this particular lot that I guess the owner is asking today, excuse my ignorance on it, but to bring in a mobile home, I think it would improve the park. I'm not against that, but some of the encroachments I do understand, and especially the roadways. That scares me. People drive like 90 miles an hour sometimes up and down that street, and it is scary. I just want to be able to park back into the park, like some of the other residents that were promised parking spots and were ordered to park on the street. That, I think, is wrong. I don't think park management should do that to us.
I think you're absolutely right, Ms. Page. Thank you for your
Thank you,
comments.
Mr. Mills. Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in opposition? Yes, sir, if you step forward.
My name is Derek Robertson. Mohawk Avenue, 2608. I'm smack dab in between this one and the previous thing. I got 2 letters. And I don't really have this one, I'm kind of torn on it, like pretty much my opinion lines up exactly with Jerry, Mr. Mills. But I think the simple solution would be to not replace Trailer 4 and to make that a parking lot. I think that you should stipulate, because the cars that you guys are talking about are absolutely from this trailer park. The cars parked on Mohawk and the cars parked on the road. I think the simple solution is to say lot number 4, parking lot. If you don't do that, you lose your whatever it is, contingency. But they definitely need to have more parking, and I think allowing another trailer would be foolish at this point, just because they made an oversight in 1980. I was born in 1980. Let's correct things from 1980. Let's not say we messed up in 1980. Keep going. Let's make it better. That's it.
Well, Ms. Robinson, I agree with you, and the point about possibly putting parking on lot 4 and maybe where that pad is too. The reason why I would kind of hate to approve that is because I would not want to be the one that does have the one driveway onto Santa Barbara, and have to try to back out to get out onto that street.
Can you pull into that from the inside?
No.
Well,
Place is packed.
The parking is an issue.
Place is packed, and I would think that it's the owner's responsibility to provide at least one parking space per unit.
Per unit, exactly. And I think that everybody who lives there, definitely deserves to have a place to live, and I don't think that people should be pushed out. But
absolutely, I agree with you.
But sometimes, change has to come about, and trailers, that are 40 years old are close to the end of their lifespan. So I think adding in new trailers to a trailer park that's not really in the best location is not really a smart move to make, because you're saying, okay, this is a problem, we're just going to continue this problem forever. You know what I mean? Like
Yes,
you
sir.
said about the Mediterranean revivalist neighborhood that Dream World was supposed to be. I think it could still be a nice neighborhood. I think Sanford is a wonderful place, and sometimes we have to make tough decisions to make things better, and I think not bringing in brand new trailers is the way to go.
The diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition?
I hope you have brakes.
Is there any way, can we?
Is there a
do we have
microphone?
He was just helping her.
Oh, okay.
I'm fine. Hi, my name is Audrey Normand. My mother, Margaret Temple, lives in the adjacent property,
Okay.
which is 2538 Iroquois Avenue. My address is 2510 Myrtle Avenue, which also is considered in Dreamwalk, I believe. She's the one that submitted the letter to you. It addresses the visibility on Iroquois and on Mohawk as you approach Santa Barbara. As Mr. Mills was saying, on Mohawk, the painted stop line, you actually have to pull completely in front of the painted stop line to have any visibility to the east. The mobile homes completely block your visibility. And on the south side of the road on Santa Barbara, it's lined with cars from the people who don't have spaces to park in the park, or who maybe choose to park there so they don't have to walk so far, especially if it were raining or something. They also park down Mohawk and occasionally on Iroquois, but not so frequently on Iroquois. Here, our car happens to have a backup camera. And so if you pull up as far as you need to pull up on Mohawk, this is the corner he had up on the screen, to be able to have enough visibility to pull out into the traffic or onto Santa Barbara, if we put our car in reverse and look, we can see the painted stop line back behind us. The car is completely in front of the stop sign, which I'm not sure of. If there were an accident, the liability that you aren't behind the stop line. On Iroquois, the entrance into the park is between the stop sign and the painted stop line. There's approximately 39 feet between the stop sign and then you reach the painted stop line, which is way out towards Santa Barbara. You're almost out in Santa Barbara, right there on the right side, right with the little right. And with the cars parked on the south side of Santa Barbara, that means anyone coming from the Seminole High School area, coming from the west, has to drive in the lane that should be westbound. So that limits your visibility because then they're closer up towards the mobile homes, and you really have to get out there and make sure no one's coming around the cars parked there. If someone is coming around and, like Joyce said, they fly down that road, and they're going to take that corner at Iroquois, and you're out there at the line or have crept up a little further, there's accidents waiting to happen. I think a few maybe have happened. You have to be very careful at that corner, at both corners. There's also the issue that adjacent to my mother's property, although the neighbors are very nice, it was asked back in the day, and probably it might have been during the 1980 hearing. At that time, the manager of the property was the owner of the property, and he lived on site. He was a neighbor. Could we put a mobile home right up against your property? It's a temporary thing. This is just for, I don't even remember the reason. I was a child, and could it be there? And sure, Fred, go ahead. Fred and Margaret Fontaine, go ahead. They didn't intend for this to be replaced in perpetuity. They probably also didn't intend for it to still be there in 2016. The neighbor's very nice. However, 4.5 inches from the fence line is her shed. And her home is like, I think, 11 feet from the fence line. The mobile home in the rear that you say is encroaching on that other lot, I think is 14 feet from the fence line. What's not shown on the survey map, I don't believe, is that it seems over the years everybody has installed a utility shed. So it's extremely congested in there. There's very little room to, if there were, I'd be concerned if there were a fire, that you could get the equipment in to work on it without the next one catching fire. And the next one, if it were I don't mean like a tiny kitchen fire, I mean if there were a fire, a big fire, the whole park might go up. It's, as Mr. Mills said, it has evolved over the years into what it is now. It wasn't like this back in the day. And the word perpetuity is very alarming to the neighbors, and especially to my mother, that in perpetuity this will be up on her property line, which when she sells, she's getting older, that's why I'm speaking, and it's going to be hard to sell when somebody right there in your garden. There are some like kind of neighborhoody issues. They cut the trees and then just flop them over the fence. She has to hire people to take them off, but that has nothing really to do with it. That's just kind of neighborhood issues. The issue is the traffic, the parking on the street. Back in the day, nobody parked on the street. There was plenty of parking spaces. I believe there were less homes in there, and so there was extra parking. Also, the homes on that block between Mohawk and Iroquois and from Santa Barbara, the majority of them are on 2 or 3 city lots. The one on the other end of the block actually probably has, I didn't look at it, but they have an area as large as the mobile home park. They have the whole end of the block with one home on it. They are large lots. And then we have this that's not so attractive anymore with all the clutter of the utility sheds and the things the owners have put there. That's kind of all I really have to say.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for it. Your mother, Mrs. Temple, is here.
She is.
Mrs. Temple, I must say, next time I need a letter, I'm going to call you. I enjoyed reading it. It's good work.
I have a degree in education.
I should have known. You're welcome. Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? If no one else is to speak, we'll give the presenter an opportunity. Mr. Cooper, if you'd like to come forward. 'Cause 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 'c
Thank you. I agree, it was a good letter. It was very concise to the point, even though it was long. It addressed very logically all the issues they had. Again, we agree that if there's really a traffic issue there, that it should be addressed. It's really beyond our control to do that. We understand the concerns that have been expressed with respect to the issue of replacement. We obviously would like you to allow us to replace, but if the board doesn't feel that that's appropriate, then we would certainly ask that you find that my client is entitled to a conditional use for the operation of this trailer park, which has been there for 36 years. And I'll be glad.
Much longer.
I understand that, Mr. Mills. I know you grew up
The
here.
resident historian.
But we're just trying to continue what we have and what we thought we had, and I don't think this board has given any indication that they're going to remove that, so I will let the board discuss the replacement issue. I can't say anything more about it that would affect your decision. I've already made all the points I can.
This lady needs to know we close the public hearing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
With that being said, the public I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Audrey Normand. Speaking for my mother, I think this is what she would say. She is not asking for you to remove everything and make it in compliance right now today. I think it's the replacement in perpetuity that is a problem, that, as Mr. Mills said, as they each mobile home becomes necessary to have major repair or be replaced, that it's allowed to die its natural death. And at that point, nobody is like the speaker over here, the gentleman over here, Mr. Dickler. Nobody's looking to just put old people out of their homes. I'm over 55, so that would be like me getting put out. My mother obviously is over the 55. We don't want anybody just the whole, all the residents shoved out. That's not the idea. The idea is to allow them to die their natural death until we come down to a more reasonable amount of people where they have enough room to park, where it's not so cluttered, where it's not a fire hazard, where we aren't blocking the view of the streets, where people aren't parking on the streets, where they're just a better neighbor.
I just have one comment for Ms. Norman. Speaking on behalf of your mother, I'm not sure she really appreciates that the obvious comment that you made that she was over 55.
The obvious comment? Now, see, wait, now you did...
You did say that. You said she's
Exactly.
obviously over 55.
Well, I'm over 55, so she's obviously over 55.
We should have.
Okay, thank you.
With that being said, the public participation portion of the hearing is closed, and the commission will now discuss.
Okay, I think I can make a stab at a motion.
I think you can. Discussions, any other
But
questions?
any other discussion, and you might want to have discussion after the second, after I make an attempt to make a motion.
The only thing I can interject is that during the course of the meeting, during the course of the presentations, there was concerns about fire. I spoke to Tim Robles with the city. He admits that getting into the park is pretty dang difficult because of the truck sizes, but he says there is, as far as fire hydrants, there's enough water sufficient to maintain control if caught. So I just wanted to check on that because that was a concern of mine.
Thank you.
Okay.
With that, we'll entertain a motion.
All right, here we go. I'm going to try to use part of the one that staff prepared. I'm moved to approve with conditions the conditional use request for the continuation, or striking alteration, for the conditional use request for the continuation of an existing non-conforming use in a single-family residence zoning at 800 Santa Barbara Drive, subject to the development order, with the additional conditions that there shall be no replacement for Lot 4. And, I know attorneys are going to eat this up, but based on the health, safety, and welfare of the traffic and the density that's already there. Item number 2, that there be no additional replacement. I heard the comment, natural death, as those mobile homes get to the point where they no longer meet building code requirements, and the owner wants to apply for a building permit to completely rebuild or replace it, that be denied. Also, that there be no street parking allowed, and that the owner must provide at least one space per unit on site. Condition number 1 was last sentence, that after removal of a trailer or mobile home from the subject property, no trailer shall be permitted to be replaced, period. Striking out within the public right-of-way, just period at all. And then item number 4, building permits relating to the subject property shall be required for all modifications to trailers. Here's another attorney thing that Mr. Groot will have to deal with. If substantial building permit is required for the restructuring of any of those units, then it too shall be denied. And that's my motion. The point is that anything substantial that has to be done on one of those mobile homes, and it's close to the end of its life, it needs to go, and it should not be replaced.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Mills and a second by Cassandra. Mr. Groot, is there any comment in regards?
Well, we can, if this motion passes, we can draft up a development order that in our judgment, implements what the action is. What I would be a bit concerned about is having a precise language.
That Mr. Coover would agree with?
So, I think, assuming that occurs, everything's fine. If not, I think you might want to have a contingency that if Mr. Coover can't agree to the language, that it comes back on March 3rd to see where we were at.
Okay, can I just say that I'm adding that to my,
Yes.
okay, all right. And you have that, Mary?
I'll get it from him.
Okay, and so I guess we have to revise the second on that.
Second.
Okay.
So the motion has been amended by Mr. Mills and seconded by Cassandra. At this time, we'll take a vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously as the conditions stated by Mr. Mills.
Okay, thank you all. I'm not supposed to say that, am I?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll wait a minute or so for people that have wanted to leave to clear out. Of course.
And she's obviously over 50.
Oh, yes. Just a scooch. Let's have a game. Okay. Next item is public hearing number 3. A request to rezone 18.6 acres from AG to PD and amend the McReynolds Plan Development approved by ordinance number 3516 to TBI Real Estate Holdings PD and add the 18.6 acres of land for a total of 43.6 acres. This request has been received.
Okay. On October 25th, 1999, the City Commission adopted Ordinance 3516 and approved the PD Master Plan for the McReynolds PD, which included a 300-room hotel and 55,000 square feet of commercial retail space with the 5 conditions noted in the staff report. On December 22nd, 2015, the applicant submitted a request to amend the aforementioned PD Master Plan. The amendment included the rezoning of an additional 18.6 acres currently zoned to agriculture, combining it with the PD that exists and changing the title to TBI Real Estate Holdings PD to allow a hotel and commercial usage on a total of 43.6 acres instead of the original acreage that was approved. A PD Master Plan showing the additional acreage has been submitted to add to the original PD Master Plan laying out the expansion in the PD.
Thank you. Questions of staff?
Want the recommendation?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Hey, I'm new at this.
Staff recommends the Planning and Zoning Commission forward to the City Commission a recommendation of approval to amend the approved McReynolds PD Master Plan by adding the additional acreage and replacing it with the TBI Real Estate Holdings Master Plan pursuant all standards and conditions as denoted on said PD Master Plan dated January 6, 2016, subject to a development order with the conditions before you.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
I have a question. The 2 access points from Red Cleveland Boulevard into the site, are those under the city's jurisdiction or Orlando Sanford International Airport or OSSI or whatever it is?
Red Cleveland Boulevard is a City of Sanford right-of-way. As is stipulated in the original McReynolds PD, the consideration of having those access or driveways to Red Cleveland Boulevard would be coordinated with the Sanford Airport Authority. Staff is recommending that same consideration be considered with the expansion. The expansion, of course, of the additional 18 acres is to the west, and so the design and idea of having connection to Red Cleveland Boulevard would certainly continue in the manner that was originally approved by the city, should the additional acreage not be approved by the city. So we don't find that changing the consideration of access to Red Cleveland is warranted based on the expansion.
So the airport is just a participant in approving or not wanting it to happen. They are not the authority having jurisdiction.
Correct, unless there is some other agreement or instrument that I'm unaware of that had granted, quote, access rights and road jurisdiction of this road to the airport authority, then the city of Sanford has the authority to make that decision. But it again is recommended here to continue with the original conditions that this be coordinated with the airport if access is designed for the project.
So it has to be coordinated with them, but not necessarily approved.
A major stakeholder in the area, so we obviously want to work with them.
Okay. And then, you know, the drawing is titled Master Plan, and I'm just curious of staff, because you guys always do such a thorough review. The definition of plan development master plan, you're suggesting, meets all of the requirements for elements on it to make it a master plan. Is that correct?
Yes, I would stipulate in the purpose of a zoning master plan, that is indeed the case. We have master plan requirements that can get more detailed with regards to warranting more information when it is not involving a fundamental zoning instrument. In this case, the objectives is to fundamentally, for zoning purposes, identify the permitted uses of the property, which are enumerated in the table of land use of land uses, the hotel, Gordon, can you zoom in on the table at the top? Hotel, parking, commercial, retention ponds, open space. So that's one of the fundamental requirements of a zoning master plan. And then the other element of a master plan is access, which you've identified both not only to Red Cleveland Boulevard, but on Marquette Avenue as well. So those are the fundamental requirements of a zoning master plan, and I think what is before you is sufficient in that regards.
Okay, and once this PD is theoretically approved, will they be required to come back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for anything else? Or will it all be staff approval from that point forward?
Unless there are any subdivision of the property, then and/or stipulations by either this board or the city commission as conditions of the zoning approval, then normatively there would not be any reason for development site plans, engineering plans having to be presented back to this board or the city commission.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff?
Thanks, Russ.
I think we have a representative there from behind the podium. Good morning, Mr. Spolsky.
Good morning.
Please state your name and address.
Yes, Kevin Spolsky, 1425 East Airport Boulevard, Sanford. First of all, Mr. Mills, since we went to school around the same time at Gainesville, I didn't appreciate the age comment, but as far as this particular project,
it is what it is.
I'm just happy to be here and be able to stand up. I've got Larry Goldthrope with me today. He's president of Airports Worldwide, which is the ownership of TBI Holdings now at the Sanford Airport and the numerous other airports that they control and operate with. The purpose of this was to go ahead and get the entire parcel under one plan of what we hope to accomplish here in the very near future. We have been in constant communication, as you're probably aware of, with Larry Goldthrope being involved with the airport, with Diane Cruz, with the airport staff, people of this nature. And Jerry, one of the questions you had there with the two entryways, I was not the author of that back in 1999 when that came about. That is airport property. Should a traffic study warrant a condition of access off of Red Cleveland, obviously we'd work with the city of Sanford and their staff in order to go ahead, as well as the airport with the FAA regulations and rules that we've got to contend with. We would go ahead and work with the airport at that particular time. At this time, there is no access off of Red Cleveland, and our initial plan of what we're developing right now would be to do this in stages because this is a large parcel. And again, if the traffic access would warrant access from Red Cleveland, we'd be working with the city as well as the FAA and also the airport authority. We are currently in with the FAA for the height clearance requirements that the airport is aware of. So we have complied with that. The airport knows of our wishes of what we intend to do here, and that's where we're at this time. And obviously for this size of an investment and everything, the parcel and what we intend to do will be of first-class quality. There'll be no trailers there, by the way. But it will be a first-class quality and obviously representative of the airport and also the community. Airports Worldwide is a first-class organization, and with their holdings and with their accomplishments of what they have done and plan to do, it'll be something very positive for the city of Sanford.
Mr. Spolsky, did you say that you have had conversations with Diane Cruz about these two access points on Red Cleveland?
Yes, we have, because when I saw it, there was confusion there as to when this was done by, I think it was by Evans or somebody that did the original drawing. The question that came up about it, where it came from, how it was done, was it a sales pitch, all this other stuff, was unknown to TBI and also myself at the time. And should we go ahead and do this project the way that I have it planned, we would only have at a future date one access point. I think two access points at that location would actually cause confusion and possibility of some traffic areas there that would be in conflict because of separation between curb cuts and also your accel decel lanes. So right now, Jerry, we intend in the future, if it is warranted, to go with just one point of entry with the design concurrency of the airport and the city of Sanford.
Okay. The reason why I asked that question is because I had email conversation with Diane Cruz last week, and she said she had no idea that you all were requesting to have access off Red Cleveland Boulevard onto the site. So I'm suggesting that maybe you guys need to have a discussion with her and remind her that you did indeed talk about it in the past.
We did, and maybe it was after that, Jerry, because this is going relatively quickly on everything that we're trying to accomplish. And obviously, if there is going to be an access point there, it would be with the city and with the airport authority in conjunction, and not just assuming it. So, yes.
Of course. Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? I have one question, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Spolsky. The two parcels directly to the west of your parcel,
Yes,
between Keller property, that's also owned by TBI, isn't it?
that's correct, Steve.
I'm just surprised that y'all didn't pick that up too. Just get a little more.
What we are doing right now, you will probably see us in front of you one more time because of a good faith agreement that TBI has got with the nursery folks of utilization of that property right now. We will be back to go ahead, and if this is approved by you guys today, then we'll be back at a later date to go ahead and tie everything together.
Okay.
So it's all one parcel.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions?
No.
I guess, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
I have a request to speak from Leslie Wilson. It doesn't say whether you're for or against, so I appreciate.
Well, you can't fight City Hall, can you?
Ah,
My name is Leslie Wilson.
I
I
do.
live at 2263 Marquette Avenue, so I am directly across from this, and today was the first time I've heard the word hotel.
can you blow up the map, Jordan, and so we can the exact location? It's one of those little yellow squares, right?
The second one over.
Okay. Thank you.
I have two parcels, and just in the last couple years, just to give you a little background, it was put in my name. This is my late husband's childhood home. His parents bought it in '69 when it was Route something. And after many years of fighting with a stepmother of 2.5 years, I finally got it in my name after my husband passed. And my question is really, who wants a 300 hotel room across from them? So since I can't really do anything about that, my question is, how are they going to address the neighbors? We already have a very good rapport with Mr. Keller, and we've had issues over the years. He resolves them. He's opened up, for answers and question times. But we're talking about something huge here. There's a house next to me, which is the corner one on the airport. She's leased that out to somebody else, and I don't know what they're doing with that. I live at 2263, and then my other neighbor, who was unable to be here this morning, has also been there a very long time. And we just really want to know how things are going to be addressed as far as the noise. When they start doing all this building, are they going to do it back 100 feet or so? Are they going to leave up any of the brush? Are they going to put up a barrier? Where's the parking going to be? Is it going to be on Marquette side? Is it going to be on the far side, closer to the airport? How is this going to impact the residential areas that are still zoned agricultural, but as far as crime, I'm sorry, but I'm widowed and I've never really had any problems out there, and now all of a sudden I'm going to have, all these people in and out, and they've already put up signs outside my property that say no parking, stopping, or standing, because I've literally had people come and park in my front yard.
Like a cell phone lot at the airport.
Yeah. And I have no problem. I'm a nurse, so I'm not real shy. I have no problem going out there and asking people to leave and telling them there's a little park over there. But this is definitely going to open things up. So my concerns are a definite increase in crime. So are they going to have security? I know right now, if I call 911, I am lucky enough to get airport and sheriff to show up. So that's always been very nice. And now he talked about the entrances are going to be strictly on Red Cleveland. I would definitely want that to stay versus...
No, that's not what the master plan
The master
shows.
plan doesn't show that. If you look up at the master plan, I see an arrow coming in from the south side of the property.
Well, that's probably right in front of me.
Right. I think in addressing it with your questions that you're bringing up, I think one of the appropriate ways, along with Mrs. Spolsky, but Russ Gibson, who's head of planning and development, there comes a point in all construction projects as they come in front of planning that things are determined, there's certain requirements that have to be made, but there's also considerations that are taken into effect. And I think, Russ, if you'd like to expand on that a little bit.
Sure, and certainly I'd like Mr. Spolsky to address it in the context of what is before you today, which is an expansion of what the property directly across from Ms. Wilson is already entitled to the uses that the property owner is looking to expand further to the west. Frankly, the property owner owns all of the property between Red Cleveland Boulevard and the Keller site, which you're familiar
Right.
with. They're only looking, on the aerial here, to add the 18 acres to the west of the site that's across the street from you. So the current master plan that's been approved by the city already has access rights approved in front of your property on Marquette. What the chairman has indicated is that this area, as anticipated with future growth and the entitlements they're accorded, will still have to work with the city, the community, to design the requisite improvements to the street, to meet city requirements. And certainly when sites are under construction, they have to comply with the appropriate codes, regulations relative to noise and any other operating hour restrictions. So again, we certainly want to hear any other concerns or matters that we can address as it relates to development in the city. Certainly the consideration before the city now is whether or not to consider granting additional land to be added to the project. And
Can you be more specific?
as it relates to the area being added,
Yeah.
on the overhead, Ms. Wilson, this square right here is the existing property that has the entitlements for the hotel and commercial uses. It's these parcels to the west of it that they're wanting to add into the existing plan.
So it's Miss McReynolds' property plus more, right?
correct.
Okay, so all the way up to the fence line where the Kellers have their trees and dumpsters.
No.
The property owner owns all the way to the Keller site, but they're not adding all of those.
That's a good question.
There's some additional parcels that they're not included. Here's the better exhibit that they're putting on the overhead right now. So what's in yellow is the existing McReynolds site.
Where are we looking at this? Where's Marquette Avenue on here?
It's on the bottom.
Okay.
and you can see with the existing McReynolds.
Right.
Effectively where the gate opening is into the property.
Yeah.
Is where there's anticipated access rights. So it's master planned. It will get better determined once there's.
You mean her original driveway? Is that what you mean by gate?
Correct. I believe it's in the westerly portion of
Yeah.
her property.
Okay.
And again, the property owner for the city today owns these additional parcels that total about 18 acres, and they're proposing to add those into this existing McReynolds site to better master plan the proposed development. They do also own a couple other parcels here between these parcels before the city today and the Keller property further to the west. I hope I've better explained the orientation.
Okay. But you guys hope to have the, as far as, are you going to use one site for personnel and trucks and another site for guests?
It'll all be combined into one single
Master plan.
master plan with a hotel, and it looks like they're also asking for some retail on that site as well, meaning stores and shops and things like that. I don't know if they're included in the hotel itself, because right now our requirements for rezoning don't require any kind of floor plan, so we can't tell where parking is or roads are or anything like that.
Strictly to add the additional property to the footprint. Mr. Spolsky, if you have anything else you could add?
Yeah, she has some good questions and concerns that we also have looked at as well. The way we want to structure this is that we want to go ahead and be neighbor-friendly with everyone out there. I know everybody comes up and says that, but these are good people that are going to possibly make this happen. The retail end, we're not at this time looking at any retail other than what might be ancillary to a hotel status. And you'd have to be, obviously, the placement, you'd want to take advantage of the Lake Golden site. It would be farther away from her house, and it's just coincidental, but the property that surrounds Miss Wilson is owned by a man by the name of Nash Huda, and I actually did site plan development for him 9 years ago to put a hotel there. So it was, she's getting it from both sides, but that particular property is up for lease right now behind her. But what we plan to do, any of the parking and everything will be back behind any of the heavy landscaping and structure that we plan to do on the first phase, and then the further development of it and everything will be farther north rather than on Marquette, because we want to take advantage of the aesthetics that are there. So that's just from 30,000 feet looking down. That's exactly what we're doing right now, and we hope to have this finalized before the City Commission hearing, so we can make it public and share with the neighbors what we're doing. But it is very, very, very first class. So we're very proud of it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wilson, it's about the best answers we can give you at this time.
Yeah. My other question, and forgive my ignorance, I don't come to a lot of these. The last one I came to was when they rezoned what used to be a dump is now a lake right there. So my other question is, what would happen to our zoning? Because I know my neighbor has tried multiple times to get his property rezoned, and I believe the driveway between my home and the Runyon's home, isn't that like in between unincorporated Sanford and the city of Sanford?
Yeah, Ms. Wilson, and for the benefit of the board, the exhibit on the overhead here is the current zoning of the property. This is your property right here. This is obviously the hatched area is what's before the city today. The Barrel Pit site here is in the city, and it's, as you can see, is currently zoned agriculture. Your property and your neighbors to the east and west and south are in unincorporated
Seminole County.
So how will that, I mean, are we going to change, or?
We are going to absorb you.
Watch what you say.
If the individual property owners, you or your neighbors, choose to rezone or redevelop your property, then you would work at this time with
Seminole
Seminole
County.
County. Or if you have interest in annexing into the city, these properties appear to be eligible for annexation.
Okay,
But for right now, it would stay just like it is.
okay. All right, I would like to come back up and ask more questions if applicable.
One further point that Ms. Wilson brought up, she stated about the signage on Marquette. That was put up there by the airport authority per FAA guidelines on the no parking there because of the security issues created by 911. We had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Oh, no, those have been up for a long time, yeah.
All right.
Question of Mr. Spolsky.
Mr. Spolsky, the board has some questions. I'm sorry.
Jordan, can you blow that up just a little bit more, please, so that right where the word site is, we can see that rectangle that faces out onto Marquette? Or lose it completely? Yes. Up at the site, a little higher. Okay. Stop right there. Leave your cursor there. Mr. Spolsky, as I understood your comments, you said that the hotel was going to be set back, and your goal was to leave a lot of the natural landscaping there along Marquette. Is that?
Along Marquette,
Yes.
probably, Jerry, if you were out there, a lot of that is scrub stuff, and we're going to replace it with mature type of foliage. They've got a lot of live oaks that are almost dead, and we've actually had Storm Richards out there for the last 2 months doing a survey for us on what we can and cannot do. So the landscape along Marquette, because of the entryway and everything, will be quite extensive. The stuff that's there right now, any of the stuff that's nice, obviously we want to keep it and work around it. But basically, probably the first 50 to 100 feet off of Marquette will be heavily landscaped.
So there's no intent in the future that you're aware of to come back and rezone those as retail for out parcels for anything?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
We have someone else that would like to speak.
I don't know.
Again, please state your name and your address.
John Polisek. I am at 3105 Ohio Avenue. You can see Ohio Avenue.
Right there.
It's actually Avenue, not street, but to the north. I'm approximately 11 o'clock position on Lake Golden. Anybody familiar with that area other than the Keller nursery property? That area is extremely rural. Along Marquette, both north and south side, along Ohio Avenue, both east and west side, all up and down, is extremely rural. It's a beautiful setting. I wanted, since we're talking about how the site might be developed, and I know that's not the point of discussion today, but I would like to have the applicant address how the lakefront is going to be developed or not developed. There are very few boats on that lake right now. I don't know whether the planned hotel is going to clear all of the waterfront and put in a beach, have jet skis running around. I have no idea what their plans are. This was perhaps 8 or 9 years ago when this hotel was originally planned, and it never went any further from that. So if there's an opportunity to answer how the waterfront's going to be developed and how they may be involved with the lake itself, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Polisak. I think Mr. Spolsky will be glad to address.
Well, I'm getting all these good questions. The hotel status itself is going to be thought of as part of the airport type of property. As you may or may not be aware of, the airport at this time is working on the north side of Lake Golding with a hotel planned development just west of Don Knight Park there in that 5-acre parcel. Again, a study I did 10 years ago of where we had 2 hotels going. As you are aware of, where he is suggesting on Ohio, yes, that's pretty residential. The point is that the major part of the lake is 25 acres. The southwest portion of the lake is around 10. We got about 35 acres of body of water there. There is a natural spring there. We're conscious of all the amenities that are there. And the fact is that less than 25% of Lake Golden's frontage is residential at this time. And obviously because of the airport, because of this property, because of the Keller property, yes, Ohio is residential. The lakefront itself is pretty much airport and future land development as the city has progressed with their thoughts. We have no intentions of putting boats with the hotel because it's not inducive of the type of environment that they're trying to achieve. As far as it's funny, I serve on the Development Advisory Board for Seminole County, and the same question came up just last Thursday about waterfront and beachfront, of how the state regs allow you so much clearing either manually or machine-wise, and very limited, if any at all, of beachfront type of sand on the waterfront. It's not our intention. Our intention is to take advantage of the natural beauty, to take advantage of runway 9 right and 9 center and 9 left for visibility. While people are staying there, people naturally like to watch the airplanes come in for a landing. We have no intentions whatsoever of making it a public access for boat personnel or off-site or on-site personnel to have boats out there because of the liability issue and also because of maintaining a good neighborly status with the neighbors. Again, no retail other than ancillary with the hotel, and I think it'd be pretty neat. So good concerns, and we're going to make sure that we meet with the neighbors to go ahead and show them what we're doing. Yes,
Kevin,
sir.
I know you're going to know the answer to this, but as you know, Ralph and John White lived in the old hunting lodge log cabin that's out there. That's part of this property, right?
No, it's not. That's
It's
part of
not?
the Kellers. Yes, that's
Okay.
Keller's property.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's gone anyway, right?
Right. They went ahead. I think they have a 2-story structure there now, as I recall.
Right. 2-story
And
office.
that's part of the Kellers.
That would have been a nice amenity for a hotel.
Jerry, you're too much of a historian. That's why I got to say. These history architects, they're all there. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Polsek, I hope that addressed the questions you have.
If I may ask one other.
Well, if you need to direct yourself to us,
Yes,
please.
address that, certainly.
Just wondering, more specifically on the lakefront, would the lakefront be cleared? Would there be a dock in place? Is there any type of improvements that would be actual lakefront?
Again, I think from our standpoint is that comes down the road as this thing matures and develops into fruition of a construction project. To answer the question, I mean, if Mr. Spelsky's willing to, fine, but
Basically, what we're looking at is for the hotel itself of the view, and not to have people out there fishing or snorkeling or anything of that nature. We're looking for the hotel environment, for the stay, for personnel from the airport, from the ball fields that are going to take advantage of it. All those things that are going on is what we're looking at. We're not out to make it a Disney World of swimsuits and snorkels and scuba gear. We're there for the environment of the hotel, for staying and lodging and taking a plane out. Thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor or against?
Do we have a timeline of any type on
Uh,
when this is going to start? Or, I mean, I've already noticed people over there wandering around, so.
Well, that's a good indication
And
that they're,
because I am alone, I do tend to pick up my phone and say, this person doesn't look right. And considering where I live, my gut instincts are usually correct, so.
right now we know that they're doing tree surveys, which is people on site.
Our goal is to have something started relatively soon. And when I say relatively soon, I mean probably within the next 4 months is what we're looking at. Our goal also is on as soon as we finalize our negotiations of what's taken place, that is not finalized yet, but we're very close. I will meet personally with anyone that wants to meet either at my office down the road or with them at their site, and I'd be happy to show them what is planned. I think the neighborhood is going to embrace this because we are looking out for their interest as well as making it an economic success. But the hotel part is down the road. It's not there yet. The other part of this that we're aiming at to get started we hope to have ready to break ground within 4 months.
Break ground for what then?
With some minimum retail, stuff of that nature. Well, again,
It has to do with aviation.
oh, okay.
Okay. It's very low profile, very low profile. Let me just say that for right now. It's not entertaining outside traffic or anything of that nature.
Okay. And as far as the hotel, when the point comes to that, it's negotiating with someone who's going to come in as a franchise tag, and that determines the actual construction types and everything else.
Our first goal is to get this other structure complete, and then from that point, we'll go ahead and work with everybody. But the hotel will definitely be planned as far north as we can put it. And
Golden.
Exactly. Right.
Thank
yes, sir. Thank you.
But as far as if you guys start within
Could you
the next
speak to
4
the board,
months,
please?
if you guys start within the next 4 months, how, there's no entrances from Red Cleveland Boulevard this time, so everything would be going through Marquette. That's the only way to get onto this.
That would have to be determined, but that's probably a reasonable assumption.
So, and are we going to, from this board, are we going to always be notified of all these meetings and changes? And my other question,
Actually, as I understand it right now, if this is approved as it's written today, and the concept of what's being done fits within the parameters that are in place already, it would not come back to the board.
Goes to City Commission next. and
Goes to City Commission.
And that's a public meeting
That's-
that
yeah.
you can attend and speak at.
and are those usually during the day?
No, they're nighttime.
Okay.
They're night.
Monday evenings.
Yes. But that's about as clear as we can give you on answers on those right now.
Okay. And I don't know if you've ever spent a night.
Against us.
Oh, sorry. I don't know if you've ever spent a night right by the airport, but, and granted, my house was built in '44, but I have put the people that had our house while my husband and I were up in Alabama pretty much totaled our house, and I've rebuilt it just in the last 6 years. But it rattles my house crazy when they do the startups at night. And we, like I said, we have a good relationship with them, so I get on the phone and call the guy at noise control, and he tells me, you know, this is why we had to do it. It doesn't happen a lot, but when it does, the whole house rattles.
Ouch.
So, you know, if you're going to be building an airport, and I don't know, I'm sure the construction is different than mine was, so.
They will take into consideration in building.
Since I live at the south end of 1836, I know what she's talking about. I hear
Exactly.
those things too. So, but this will be very low profile, very limited noise during construction. I will have my guys wear rubber-soled shoes, but
But you also face a certain amount of city parameters what time you start and stop. too.
Exactly, and this will be a very quick process on what we plan to do in the very near future. So we'll make sure we work with them. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
At this time, the public participation portion of the hearing is closed, and discussion with board. Any discussions?
I have nothing to add.
I'll make the motion. I'm ready to make a motion. Okay, I move to amend the approved McReynolds PD master plan by adding additional acreage and replacing it with the TBI Real Estate Holding PD master plan as recommended by staff, subject to a development order that includes all recommended conditions.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second motion by Cassandra Boyd, second by Lindsay. We'll take a vote.
Aye.
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 The motion passes unanimously.
Again, just for the clarification, this recommendation will be forwarded to the Sanford City Commission. Eileen, do we know the anticipated date? We're tentatively targeted for the March 22nd? Oh, I'm sorry, February 22nd City Commission meeting for first reading of an ordinance. And so again,
The agenda has not been finalized by the clerk's office. They, upon finalization, will know for certain what date it would be, but I've forwarded what they need to, you know, what I feel that they need to schedule it accordingly. So.
and I'll pledge to forward notices to Ms. Wilson and Mr. Polisek, who have left their contact information, and we'll keep them informed as well as anybody else in the community as it relates to the progress of this development, of this proposal. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Lindsay has to leave. She has a commitment she has to get to.
My apologies, everyone.
Staff reports will be next, if there's any staff reports to be. Sorry.
Do we need to amend the unexcused absence for Mr.
I'm
Billy
sorry,
on
yes,
the
we
record?
Board, I appreciate it.
And
All right, thanks, Kevin.
I do apologize. Yesterday, I received a phone call. Yesterday afternoon, I received a phone call from a judge's office informing me that I needed to be in court at 8:30 in the morning.
Nice.
I was told that it would be over before 10. Unfortunately, it was not.
close.
So I was summoned to court on this morning. So that's why I'm late. I was late.
If we need a motion, I would. Okay. Motion to reconsider, including just Cassandra Bowie as being present.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's done. Now staff reports.
Yes, again, very briefly,
Thanks, Mary.
it's noted that on the agenda that there is a subject called litter in Sanford. This was the intent to follow up with this board and perhaps Mr. Mills's observations and concerns with regards to certain proliferation of litter about our community, including that which is sometimes often promulgated by residents near certain apartment communities throughout our community. And so I just wanted to report to the entire board that in recent months, and Mr. Group may even know the specific timeline, the city has formalized an adopted road program that's being implemented, and we've also been communicating to our citizens and community about the fact that should there be observations of any litter and trash within the rights-of-way or within the city of Sanford, to call and report that to our Public Works office, and that we get action taken to clean that up as soon as possible by either the city or our contractor, Waste Pro. I will also note that even while this matter has been considered by this board and others in our community, it's gotten media attention, and they've helped promulgate the information about the city's efforts to address this issue. So again, with the Adopt a Road program and the hopeful attention by our community, which we need, we'll get better not only response or reaction to those instances that are occurring, but maybe we'll get more civic engagement by our citizens and hopefully our apartment communities to mitigate these problems. So again, I want to thank you all for your attention to this subject, and keep us informed if there's any other ideas or thoughts about
So we're
Sanford clean and beautiful.
We're not going to get anything too major happen to be able to fine people and throw them in prison for life and all of that.
Let me
other-
say, and from what Russ just said.
Okay.
And Daryl Presley is looking at an array of code provisions, as is Emily McCabe of Solid Waste, that could be incorporated into the city code, but I don't think Mr. Presley has finished his evaluation yet, but he is doing one.
Then, as just a commissioner and not chairman, Mary, I would really like to keep this on the agenda under staff reports until we know what's happened, because it continues to be a scourge.
I agree.
And I wanted to ask Russ, you want to update us a little bit on the architectural standards that didn't happen?
Yes, thank you.
Don't really bring up its source.
No, I was getting ready to bring it up.
This board has spent quite some time over the last few years, actually, to consider revisions to our land development regulations. What has been presented to the City Commission as recent as this past Monday's City Commission meeting was an amendment to Schedule J, our landscaping regulations. That ordinance did get adopted unanimously by the City Commission. So again, I want to applaud this board, staff, and Mr. Groots as well with regards to attention to get that change done, which will better enforce our arbor regulations and improve them as well. Also before the City Commission Monday night was the consideration of the second reading and adoption of the design standards, architectural design standards. The City Commission Monday night chose to continue consideration of the ordinance for approximately 45 days. It's to, as I recall, the March 28th City Commission meeting, in order for staff to work with local contractors, engineers, designers to ensure that the interpretation and manner in which the code is applicable is viewed, better understood, and determine whether or not there's any need to change either the scope as it relates to the types of uses that the design standards apply to. At this time, it was drafted to include commercial office and the office portions of industrial development that met certain thresholds. And the other consideration that the City Commission may be asking staff to report back on is whether or not it should be considered perhaps citywide, or should it be along arterial roadways. So these are matters that we're going to be working with our development community to better ensure that the City Commission is comfortable moving forward and implementing these standards at this time. So while it's been quite some time to get to this point, the Commission certainly wants to take a little bit more time to make sure we try to get it done as best we can at this point in time.
So there is consideration of possibly trying to water it down to just arterial roads?
Well, there was discussion to that.
Oh, okay. I wasn't privy to that. I didn't know that part.
I don't want to speak on behalf of the mayor and the City Commission, but the mayor was made comments to the fact that it's been the interest of the City Commission for many years, even prior to his tenure on the commission, as well as the interest of our community, to raise the standards throughout our community. And so I think there is interest to, again, improve the quality of development throughout the city of Sanford, and these design standards were crafted in that spirit, as staff felt we were charged to do, and again, we're working with you all to make that happen. But again, the City Commission ultimately is the legislative body, and they want to at least ensure that there's clarity with regards to the scope and application of these standards.
Follow up on what you said about legislative body. I'm not encouraging you to do what you want to, but this is a situation where it's not quasi-judicial. If you want to call a commissioner, if you want to appear at meetings, that's fine. This is legislative.
Well, I can go to the meeting.
You know what I mean? You take a position, your own position. You know?
Right, not representing the board.
Well, or the board could say, go take this position.
No, I mean, it's, as a citizen.
This is legislative, and so it's open.
In another footnote, if I may, Mr. Chairman, what was also discussed by the City Commission pursuant a question they had of Mr. Colbert, who was present Monday night, was while they're continuing the second reading of an ordinance, depending upon what decision they will want to consider doing on March 22nd, if the changes are substantial, they would potentially be remanding it back to this board for action. Another option would be to, again, depending upon whether or not they make any changes at all or the scope of those changes, it may even go back to a first reading of the ordinance. So, so procedurally, it's yet to be determined. It's subject to what report and information they hear back from staff on March 22nd.
I guess we get into that word game again, because as you used before, implied intent versus intent written, substantial versus what's substantial, what's not substantial. We voted on it as a way that we voted on it the way it was presented, and if it changes in any way, shape, or form, it should be looked over again, in my opinion.
Once again, I'm not
I know.
trying to get to your business or encourage you to do anything. but you do have the right to ask the city commission if there is any change made, please.
Right. The other question I have, and this more toward you, Lonnie, is if it fell into a situation where it became on corridors and all, how difficult is to define a corridor? In other words, where do we differentiate between a corridor? For instance, right now, 1792 goes lakefront. We know that in the near future, it's probably going to be going up.
Actually, it's fairly, just easy, because I've been dealing with overlays like Lake Mary Boulevard.
Okay.
Center line in each direction.
All right, so you just pick the road, you picked it, and you give them a survey.
In our comprehensive plan and our land development regulations also have embodied the classification of each of our roads throughout.
Designated by traffic and everything that goes along with it.
But the more simple and streamlined way to do it is to have it citywide.
Well, that was the purpose of the purpose of the document, was to protect the city as a whole on construction techniques and practices. And I think it still has the chance to live. As you know, this is a real toughie for me, based off some issues. If anybody doesn't know, it was my boss from McKee Construction who presented the objection at the meeting from Monday night.
And ex-chairman for planning and zoning.
Yeah, his board back then, I checked the old notes, discussed the possibilities of getting new provisions put in. But unfortunately, that's the way the cookie crumbles. But I'm here, I'm surviving, and we'll go from there.
Just as with the request to have input relative to the litter and Sanford issue, I will absolutely keep this board apprised of how we are evaluating the pending legislation and how we anticipate on reporting back to the City Commission on March 22nd. So we'll keep you apprised, and of course, Mr. Groot has advised you what your options are as well.
I guess there's no citizen participation. Any commissioner reports? Any from commissioners? I have one thing to say. Thanks for letting me stumble upwardly through this meeting. Your help will be greatly appreciated in all manners and forms, and it's a lot more fun when you're not sitting here. I gotta say that. You know. With that being said, Mr. Mills is showing me how to use it. I do it like this, Jerry. No further business to come before the commission today. This meeting is now adjourned.